Oh, yeah, this is easily becoming my least favorite of the Universal Monster series. So now I am up to The Mummy's Ghost, which is the fourth. It's actually the fourth Universal Mummy movie, but the third in the actual series. And it's still just a bunch of the same old stuff. I would say this one had the most ambition to cover new ground, but it's still a lot of the same. It was directed by Reginald LeBorg. It came out 2 years later. It's like they made one every 2 years. So this one was 1944, but even the next film, The Mummy's Curse, also came out in 1944. It's like they just wanted to hurry up and make the damn things. Of course, Lon Chaney Jr. returns as Karis the Mummy. And these movies are so unforgettable that was he even... No, he wasn't. So this one has John Carradine in it. And John Carradine is known... He was known for playing Dracula in like the House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula movies as Dracula. Which I thought he did a good job as Dracula. This is the first movie I've seen with him as like a regular person. And just a fun fact, any Kill Bill fans or Dexter fans, John Carradine, the actor, is the father of Bill from Kill Bill, David Carradine, and Special Agent Lundy from Dexter, Keith Carradine. And, oh, what did I do? I just hit the save. Also has Robert Lowery, who, that name does sound familiar. What else was he in? I know I've seen stuff with him in it. Or I haven't. Either way is fine. Nope, guess not. Okay. Some things don't really make sense from last film to this film, because for this you have Andoheb again, played by George Zuko again. I thought he died in the last film when he told Bay, played by I think his name was Turhan Bay, the actor. I could be wrong on his name. The character's name was also Bay. He gave him the legend of Karis and told him what he had to do, like go to Massachusetts to kill the rest of the people. I thought he died after that. But now he's back as the high priest, only he's no longer the high priest of Karnak. He's the high priest of Arkham. Yeah, Arkham. They went Lovecraft in this one. Which, yes, Arkham. That's actually where Batman, because Lovecraft, Arkham. But he has another guy named Bay as well, but it's Yusef Bay, to the Temple of Arkham. And again, he passes down the duties of taking care of Karis, making sure he gives him the leaves. Only they do kind of change it up, you know, kind of like how in Dracula films they would sort of add abilities that vampires had. Well, in this, it's on the full moon, he would have to mix the leaves into like the tea and give it to Karis, and Karis could tell wherever they are. I would say the look of Karis was a little bit more natural looking on Lon Chaney this time around. Uh, I think in the last film it was just one rubber mask. I think in this one he went more of like his regular kind of makeup. And also in my last review I said how Lon Chaney wasn't a fan of playing Karras, which he wasn't, because it was his most uncomfortable, and it was actually in this film, and I think you can kind of tell during the performance. Maybe he did it in all three films, but I know at least this one. Because he was under this just cold clay and bandages and sort of like mud type material all day, he actually had a vodka bottle hidden underneath his bandages with a little straw, and he would just suck on the vodka all day, and it would just kind of keep him loose and careless, which does kind of suck because I've heard of other actors in other movies having to drink because of how miserable they are on set. And it must have been a really tough shoot because Lon Chaney was the next Man of a Thousand Faces. He was the next makeup guy for the 1940s. So he was used to it. And he absolutely hated it that bad. But also, I just don't think he was a fan of the character and how he, like, the stuff he had to do. Which, yeah, in the last film, I did sort of like his movements more than Tom Tyler's in the first film. Where, you know, Tom Tyler was just kind of, but Lon Chaney kind of added the zombie-like movements. But in this one, it feels really over the top. I mean, like, standing there, and, like, there's one scene where he keeps going on, like, with his hand up like this. Or the scene where he smashes the room. He gets to do a little freak out. I wonder how buzzed he was when he got to do that. But the task in this film that Ando Heb gives Bay number 2 is he has to go to he has to go back to Massachusetts because Karras lived the house fire at the end of the last film, and get the body of Princess Ananka and get him back to Egypt. But, of course, it's not that difficult because we have our new sets of characters like Professor Matthew Norman, who's been studying, like he found a piece of Karras' bandage and studied it. We first see him giving a lecture to his class about Karras and mummies and how they don't really care. And his girlfriend is a woman named Amina Mansouri, who is a beautiful woman, a beautiful Egyptian woman. But it's kind of weird because whenever the subject of Egypt comes up, she gets like cloudy in the head. And the thing about the character of Amina, she was played by Ramsey Ames. But what actually happened was Aquanetta, that's just her name, nicknamed a Venezuelan volcano. She was a B-movie actress known for exotic beauty, but I guess she just went by Aquanetta. She was originally cast, but there's a scene where the character had to faint and fall on a rock that was supposed to be paper mache, but it ended up being a real rock. And she was treated for a concussion, but Universal wanted to keep going with the shoot, so they just replaced her with Ramsey Ames. And when also when Chaney destroys the Egyptian museum room. He actually broke some real glass, and he cut his chin. And if you look closely, you can see it. But it's basically the first two movies. You have Bay, which Bay wasn't in the first one, but he was in the second. And it's a different Bay. So you have this third guy just pretty much taking care of Karis, going around trying to find the body of the princess, killing people here and there. And then at one point they find the princess, but her body like dissolves into dust, and it turns out they have to find her reincarnation. And that's when Karis goes nuts, because Bay tells us, like, oh, her body's gone. We have to find her reincarnation. And of course, Bay, with the reincarnation, is the main character's girlfriend. It is John Carradine's girlfriend. It is the character of Amina. But, like in all the other movies, kind of like in the Brandon Fraser movie, how Rachel Wise, or is it Rachel or Rachel? I can't remember. You know, it's like that. Everyone ends with the girlfriend being the damsel in distress, being captured by the guy looking after Karis, because he falls in love with her. Same thing happens in this, but this is where the movie kind of covered new ground, and I kind of give it credit. Turns out she is the reincarnation of the princess. She really is. So she does die, and she takes on the form of the princess. Her body becomes the 3,000-year-old age to look like Karis. Because at that point, Karis is chased by the village people. That sounded weird, the village people. Chased by the villagers. And they end up at like a swamp. And Karis and the now newly formed Princess Ananka go into the swamp. Like Swamp Thing. And that's where they live now. And I mean, that was kind of ballsy to actually go with it and say, oh, our female lead actually is that. It is what the villains think she is or want her to be, and have her die and pretty much give Karis, you know, what he wants. Which, in this one, because Bay, who is supposed to make her Ananka for Karis, he falls in love with her. Karis actually revolts and kills him, so that's something else they did different. I know I didn't really go into detail with the plot, but it's really because the first one, the first half is really just the same thing as before. And then the second half is almost the same, but with some little tweaks. Again, the movie is only 62 minutes. Well, this says 62, this says 61. They are still forgivably short. I can't fault it for that, but I'm really having a hard time getting through this series. Again, I was never much of, like, a fan of, you know, just the Mummy characters in anything. Goosebumps, Universal, whatever. In each one of these movies there's really no nuances in any of them. You could say the same thing about, like, the Frankenstein movies, but the Frankenstein movies, at least those were still good. Especially the first two with James Whale as director. Or the first three with Karloff. Which, the only Mummy film I could actually say I like would be the original 1932 The Mummy with Boris Karloff. Just the series, I'm having a hard time getting into it. It's a lot of the same stuff. I would say I liked Lon Chaney's makeup better in this one. His performance did seem, after I read that he was drinking vodka the whole time, I did kind of see he's more of like a, not quite like a Jack Sparrow kind of mummy, but yeah. I still got one more film of the series, and then I got the Abbott Costello film. So we'll see. I'm going to truck through it and get through it, but and it's not like I hate these movies. Like, it's not like when you go on like a Batman or a DC page and someone dislikes one thing and it's garbage, it's trash, it's a dumpster fire. I can't say that about these. They're not garbage. They're not even terrible. I'm just a lack of interest, I guess, and kind of bored with the same plots over and over again. That's basically what it is. It takes a lot for me to call a movie garbage and trash. I guess I don't belong on those fan pages. Seriously, go on like a Batman or DC fan page on Facebook and just mention any movie. Just take your pick. The small thing is like, oh, the car in that scene was red and it should have been blue. This movie's a dumpster fire. It's just full of petty fucking children. But yeah. So, The Mummy's Ghost wasn't much better than The Mummy's Hand or Tomb. But I do applaud it for attempting to cover new ground. I do like the things that it did, so that's probably the best one since the original so far. But anyway, that is The Mummy's Ghost. Thank you for watching.